Hey guys, how's everybody doing? I'm back today with a Vinyl Finds video. It's mainly going to be purchases from a local record store, and to start off I have one online purchase, and that's what I've got playing in the background, so in between songs now. The band is Mercury Rev and the album is Deserter Songs. I think most of you should be familiar with this. This was a huge album back in the 90s. Mercury Rev, American band, and I think the album was actually most popular in the UK, but this is a great album. The well-known songs off of this are Goddess on a Highway and Opus 40, but it's a great album. I would describe them as sort of a psych pop band. I had this on CD back in the 90s, played it a lot. It's a great album, highly recommended to those of you who like that sort of genre. Again, pop psych is probably the best way I can describe it. Take a listen in the back there if you can hear it. Okay, so that was an online purchase. Next are record store finds. I've shown some Frank Zappa in the past, and I try and pick up any Zappa on vinyl whenever I can of albums that I don't have, and I managed to find this one. This album is called Uncle Meat. It's a double LP from 1969. Got this for $8, which was a great find for me. I had this in my Amazon cart one time. I think the price it's going for now is in the 30s here in Canada. This is, I mean, I wouldn't put this in my top 5 or anything like that of Zappa albums, but certainly it's a good listen. It's definitely, I guess I would describe it as sort of a jazz rock type album with some orchestral moments in there. He has one of my favorite Zappa band members is Ruth Underwood, and she's on this, although her name, she was going under her maiden name prior to this, or prior to the albums that we know her as Ruth Underwood. But again, I think this is a great album. Again, jazz rock, orchestral, that sort of thing. Definitely not one of his more, easy to take albums, but certainly if you like this kind of stuff, it's great. And next we have another band that I've been slowly collecting over time, Iron Butterfly. This album is, I think it's their 4th or 5th album. I most recently, in the last few months, got Ball, which was their 3rd album. I got CDs of their 1st album, Heavy, and a live album. And I also got a live album on vinyl of Live in Sweden. This album happened, it's called Metamorphosis, and they had a change in membership. The original guitarist left and replaced by 2 guitarists who went by the names of last names Panera and Rhino. So this is a decent album. It isn't as good as Inagata Davida, Ball, or Heavy and some of those earlier albums, but it's still a decent album. And next, continuing with psych pop, we have the Monkees and their 5th album called The Byrds, the Bees, and the Monkees. This album, of course, the Monkees, I've always been a fan, casual fan, and even their early stuff, which was the manufactured boy band stuff. I liked those songs when they were doing the TV show and all that. But I think they really came into their own when they started writing their own material and playing their own instruments. I think that started with their 3rd album, Headquarters, continued with their next album, Pisces, something Jones Limited, which I hear is quite a good album. Definitely be on the lookout for that. And this is their 5th album, the one after that. Still quite a great album, but by this time the Monkees were actually quite a fractured group where Peter Tork, I think, hardly appears on this album, and the other 3 members were kind of doing their own thing, and they would each one of them would take a lead vocal on a song and have backing musicians appear on that song. So they really weren't doing very much together on this album. But having said all that, this is quite a good album. A really good listen. Good pop psych. Of course, the big song from that album is a song I think most of you know, Daydream Believer, was the big hit off of that. And another band from the 60s, we have the Lovin Spoonful. This is their best of. I really don't know very much about the Lovin Spoonful other than their lead singer was John Sebastian, who also did the Welcome Back Kotter theme song. And I only really knew 3 songs off of this album here, which I think were songs that some of them actually appeared in commercials. We have Do You Believe in Magic? Did You Ever Have to Make Up Your Mind? And Summer in the City was really the only songs I knew. This is a best of. It's not a gatefold. I've seen this available as a gatefold in the VC, and unfortunately this is not that version. But again, cheap pickup, knew some of the songs, so why not? And next we have another band, mainly a 60s band, but did go into the 70s 10 years after, and their album Positive Vibrations. This is their album from 1974. It's a little bit less renowned than their 60s material, although this was the last album they made in that initial run of the band. Alvin Lee, of course, being the leader of this band. And this is a good album. It's got some bluesy moments on it, some psych influenced moments on here. Something that I really enjoyed, and I will be looking for some more 10 years after. Next, a favorite band of mine, and it's the Byrds, and this is their reunion album from 1973. Reunion in the sense that all 5 original Byrd members appear on this album. So my favorite period of the Byrds is really the original run up until the album Notorious Byrd Brothers. Even though I'm a fan of Graham Parsons and the Flying Burrito Brothers, I wasn't a big fan of the Sweetheart of the Rodeo album. So up until Notorious Byrd Brothers was really my favorite Byrds period. But I also enjoyed their country rock period, which came after that, which was the band led by Roger McGuinn, and he added, I guess the most notable member at that point as well was Clarence White on guitar. So I really like those country rock albums in the later 60s, early 70s, so Ballad of Easy Rider and those type of albums. But this album came, like I said, in 73, and is a reunion of the original. All 5 members are on this. And I guess there was some really great expectations for this album, but I think it's just an okay album. A lot of the material is acoustic and features Chris Hillman's mandolin playing, so that's really good. The harmonies are really good on this, really strong. I guess what I'm missing is the electric guitar and that sort of folk rock kind of sound that they had, and with the Rickenbacker and so forth. But what's here is not bad. Like I said, some really great harmonies and some good playing on here. Just not as great as what I would have hoped it to be. There's a few cover songs on here, songs written by Neil Young, I guess the most notable, Cowgirl in the Sand. And there's a Joni Mitchell song on here as well. And it's worthwhile to pick up if you can find it for, $10 or less, I would say. Another band from the 60s that I was a big fan of is the Small Faces. And when the Small Faces broke up, Steve Marriott went on to form this band, Humble Pie. Wasn't really a big Humble Pie fan. I guess my main problem with Humble Pie is I felt Steve Marriott's vocals became more of sort of a wailing or screaming as opposed to the way he sang with the Small Faces. Although, having said that, I've got one other Humble Pie vinyl other than this album here, but this performance live at the Fillmore is actually quite a great album. This is a double LP that I got for $5, so you can't argue with that. And there's 7 songs on this, some really long jams that are actually quite good. Peter Frampton's guitar playing on this is excellent. There's a 23-minute version of I Walk on Gilded Splinters, which is the Dr. John song. And there's a 17 or so minute version of Muddy Waters' song called Rolling Stone. So this is highly recommended. I definitely am enjoying this more than what I thought I would. Another band that I've been slowly collecting is a band from the UK called the Stranglers. This is their second album, No More Heroes. I think the Stranglers' best period is that early mid to late 70s, maybe even early 80s period. This is about the fourth Stranglers record that I've got now, and this and the live record that I have are probably the best two. So I'll definitely continue to keep picking up Stranglers stuff when I find it. And last, we have two guitar legends in my opinion, and their joint album. We have Carlos Santana and John McLaughlin. John McLaughlin, of course, being the leader of the Mahavishnu Orchestra, and we have this fusion album here called Love, Devotion, Surrender. This is exactly what an album of these two guitarists, what you would expect it to sound like. And it is a good, strong fusion album. I've had this on CD for many years now, and definitely worthwhile to pick up on vinyl. Having said that, I think if I'm in the mood for Santana or John McLaughlin, I'm more likely to reach for one of the first 3 or 4 Santana albums. And if I'm in the mood for John McLaughlin, I'll probably reach for an early Mahavishnu Orchestra, Inner Mounting Flame, or Birds of Fire. Something like that, probably over this album. But having said that, this is a good album. Okay guys, that's it. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'd appreciate any comments, and we'll see you next time. Alright, take care.